As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This episode is sponsored by State Farm. Choices are great. Like with your podcasts, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And State Farm believes insurance should work the same way. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you get the coverage you want at an affordable price and a policy that helps cover what you value most. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com today to create your State Farm Personal Price Plan. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Thank you again, always, for joining me. Today, we are going to do the free agent show. This is it, the free agent frenzy, or lack thereof, or the pear-shaped free agency period, which I would pretty much call this. It's gotten pretty pear-shaped indeed. Well, the Vikings signed a guard, a starting type of a guard, starting quality guard. That's good. We got Josh Klein. And we lost like 100 other people. Yeah, we'll get to that now. We lost like a lot of people and stuff, and I don't know. Well, I guess we're going to draft offensive linemen in the draft. I guess that's going to be the focus, or so I would hope. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Josh Klein. I keep wanting to say John Klein. That's a that's some politician locally. I don't know. I don't really pay attention as much locally because, yeah. Well, George Iloka's gone. He's gone to the Dallas Cowboys, but of course Mike Zimmer never played him. So I don't know what that was all about, especially with our woes at safety. I mean, Andrew Sendejo is now off to the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that kicked his ass after he was concussed and everything a few weeks before. NFC title game, blah, blah, blah. Yep, make football violent again. You know, that hat and everything. Yep, he's going to make football violent again with the Philadelphia Eagles, at least a one-year deal. George Iloka is off to the Dallas Cowboys. Minnesota Vikings have had Tyler Shatley visit, also guard free agent from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Apparently he has left without a deal. Shatley has made semi-regular starts for Jacksonville in the past 3 seasons, this and that. We'll talk about him a bit more in a second, but Josh Klein is the main focus. He's our free agent splash thus far. Well, we re-signed Dan Bailey. I'm happy. He's our free agent splash in terms of somebody new. But the Vikings did make some significant moves that were unexpected, and certain guys staying that we thought were gone for sure. I think most of you know who they are. We're just here to talk about it, discuss it, and all that, and we'll hear what you have to say in the fan interaction segment. I almost think the fan interaction segment might have a little more to say than the actual thing here. I'm just kind of talking about it right now. Oh, God. I mean, how many people have to leave? It's one thing, Mike Remmers has been cut, so that's not surprising. Josh Klein was cut from the Tennessee Titans. Minnesota Vikings agreed to him 3-year, $15.75 million contract, so that's good. He will be the right guard for the Minnesota Vikings, most likely. He's absolutely replacing Mike Remmers. That's just all there is to say. Nick Easton was the left guard, and he's coming back, right? Nick Easton's coming back. No, Nick Easton's not coming back. He signed for $24 million with the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, my God!
Yeah, isn't that great? Nick Easton's gone now. Nick Easton's gone. That's great. Off to the Saints, $24 million contract. Yeah, yay. Thanks. But, well, I mean, what do you do? That's a 4-year deal for the Saints. Latavius Murray's gone to the Saints. And the biggest surprise of all, one that we kept thinking, well, you know, he's kind of declining, but I mean, I guess he's part of us. He's a part of us. Yeah, you think he's slowing down a little bit, but he's ever reliable, and occasionally he'll do something. That's Marcus Sherrills. And he goes to the bleeping Saints.
What? I mean, that's freaking awful.
My goodness, what is this, the late 80s? Wade Wilson and Tommy Kramer to the Saints and other guys? What's going on? Like, what the hell? Like, why is everybody going to the Saints all of a sudden? Yeah, I know they're good, but I don't know. Yeah, I hate the Saints. And, you know, and in the late 80s, we kind of didn't hate the Saints, even though we They were actually halfway decent then, too, but the Vikings upset them in the first round in 1987, and Wade Wilson and co. went all the way to the NFC title game, only to see the ball dropped by, I don't even know. I mean, it's like, you can't even get mad at him. But Darren Nelson, that is, running back and all that, quick guy, kind of quirky, third down type of guy with some speed. I don't know. It was a tough catch. It was a tough play to make, but once in a while you got to make a play. Josh Klein's the right guard for the Vikings. Brian O'Neill's the right tackle for the Vikings, so I guess we got the right side settled. I got to think Pat Elflein's the starting center. Vikings are still talking to Brett Jones. He was the starting center for the first 3 games last year with Pat Elflein absent. Of course, Pat Elflein ended up coming in during that Buffalo Bills game, which was a fateful, awful game. That was his first game with Minnesota last year after returning from injury. And then, it is what it is. It's so frustrating. Things went the way they did. They went pear-shaped as the way they did, 27-0 deficit, and there was no offensive line protection, whether it was Brett Jones, whether it was Elflein, or frickin' Riley Reif. He's the left tackle right now. They keep talking about moving him to guard, but we'll see what happens in the draft. He might have to move to guard, depending on who is available to Minnesota. And, of course, the draft will be the next show. I might throw in some names a little bit, some very brief conversation at the end of the segment. But this is a free agency segment, or free agency show, pardon me. And then we'll have the draft preview segment. I'm just here today for free agency for the most part. Again, I figured, just very brief, just little hints of what we're heading towards. And, well, you got to think the focus has got to be offensive line in the draft, because it's free agency. It's like strike one, strike two, strike. Okay, we got a single in Josh Klein, maybe a double. Possibly. Luckily, he's under 30. He's 29 years old, but he was one of the worst guards according to Pro Football Focus, and Pro Football Focus is usually pretty good, so that's disappointing. Hopefully things get better. He's a bit of a fit. Yeah, zone heavy, so we are going to have some zone, meaning a lot of running and all that. Guys that can go down the field, go sideways, this and that. More of a sideways style or down the field. That's what Nick Easton was good for in running plays and such. But now Nick Easton's gone. He's gone to the Saints, and he's going to really help them as long as he can stay healthy. Vikings were not going to commit $24 million to Nick Easton. They just weren't going to do that because, well, he gets hurt all the time. And, right when you think he's coming back, he's out again. So that's kind of how that was. Hopefully Elflein doesn't become that way. Gosh, last year was only his second league in the NFL. Yeah, so we really are counting on Pat Elflein here in Minnesota so much. It's not even funny. And Brian O'Neill, we're already superly counting on him. He is starting right tackle and possibly starting left tackle, depending on how things go. He was left tackle in college. Oh boy. Well, Josh Klein, yes, 2-3 years ago when he left New England to Tennessee, he was an outstanding guard, pardon me. And a lot of people would have said, wow, what a huge move for Minnesota. That's what would have been the case. We could have sure used him in 2016. That's for damn sure. But, of course, 2016 was what it was. Dan Bailey, he's back for 1 year, $1 million. That's kind of small, isn't it? But he wasn't exactly great last year. Just okay, and hopefully he can step up and have a very positive season for Minnesota. But no, Josh Klein, at least it's something. He's a starting caliber guard. And, yes, it was a 4-year, $24 million contract with the Saints with Mr. Easton there. Boy, oh boy. Well, Danny Isidora would be slated as a left guard right now. He's not impressed anybody so far. Riley Reif, left tackle. Of course, Elflein, center. Josh Klein, right guard. Brian O'Neill, right tackle. Brett Jones, again, he would, of course, be a depth signing, and so would the other guy. We talked about Tyler Shatley. Tyler Shatley, pardon me. He would also be that kind of guy. He's played center for Jacksonville. He's played guard for Jacksonville, so it's between Brett Jones and Shatley. I think the Vikings are preferring Jones, I guess. I don't know. It's not like Shatley was that much worse, was he? But I don't know. Brett Jones was okay. Again, it would be in a reserve role. I would hope he's not going to be starting at any position. I don't know, and he might be hoping for some more minutes, as he did start a significant amount of games for the Giants. But the Giants sucked, though. That's the other thing. Brett Jones, the Giants' offensive line absolutely sucked. So it's like, I don't know how excited you could get. They've sucked for the last 5-6 years, it seems like. Probably more like 2 or 3, but still. Brett Jones did start 13 games for the Giants in 2017, and again the first 3 for Minnesota because of Pat Elflein recovering from injury, pardon me. He also started 1 game in 2016, 14 games of action with Minnesota and the NYG, New York Giants, during the course of time. Brett Jones, 27 years of age. Shatley, also 27 years of age. You know, I wouldn't mind bringing Shatley in. I mean, Jones wasn't all that exciting. Maybe Shatley, give him a chance, see what he's all about. Again, he'd be a depth guy. And that's kind of where you're sitting right now with the Vikings and such. Shatley did start the second half of the season with Jacksonville, and of course that's when things got really pear-shaped for that club. He started the last 7 games of the season for Jacksonville last season. Started 4 games in 17, 4 games in 16, and did play in every game. He did get action in every single game, probably special teams and such here and there. But again, in some reserve role, I mean, you're going to play a bit. Guys get banged up. 13 games in 2015, no starts, and only 1 game as a rookie in 2014. So Tyler Shatley's still there, but I don't know. It sounds like, I don't know, he left without a deal, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. We could use help. It's between him and Brett Jones, possibly. And, of course, the draft was going to be offensive line. So, okay, we're done talking about the offensive line for now. I'm sure some of you are happy about that. Maybe you need a break from offensive line talk. Let's look at some of the other big moves that have happened during the course of time here. Some of the huge, giant moves. And this, Le'Veon Bell's going to the Jets. So the Jets aren't completely striking out, even though they struck out with some of us. Again, this is before I'll get more heavy into more of who the Vikings kept and such. Le'Veon Bell has gone to the Jets. He's finally going to play again. $52 million four-year contract. That's more of a running back friendly type of deal, running back and team friendly combination there. You don't want to do these 7-year, $100 million stuff because they're never gonna stay that long. It's the NFL, not for long. Earl Thomas to the Ravens, big one there, 4-year, $55 million. He's that safety from Seattle. Trey Flowers, defensive line from the Lions, he's going to the Lions. Pardon me. Valuable guy. Nick Foles is off to the Jags. So we'll see what happens there. Landon Collins is he's from a former New York Giant, heading to the Redskins. Interesting signing there. The big one, the one we thought we were going to lose, the 6th rated free agent overall on the 101 top free agents, Anthony Barr, linebacker, was going to the New York Jets. Everything's done, and then he's like, I don't think I like this idea. I feel a little sick about it. Ends up coming back to Minnesota the next day. 5 years, $67.5 million contract, $33 million guaranteed. So, all right, Anthony Barr returning to the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of you know that already, but still pretty cool, and it's a better fit. He's in a base 4-3 scheme, or it would have been a 3-4 scheme in New York. Anthony Barr's talent is being a pass rushing linebacker. He needs to be a rushing linebacker. If he drops back into coverage, it's game over. Vikings are going to lose on a regular basis. He is not going to be the kind of guy that can go one-on-one with tight ends and make a play. Maybe once in a while he will, but generally speaking, dropping back into coverage with Anthony Barr is the opposite direction you want to go. You want to be going forward, attacking the quarterback, or getting into the backfield and pulling down the running back, this and that. Or just wreaking havoc and causing the quarterback to hurry and throw an inaccurate pass, or throw the ball away, or get a bleeping sack, which is what we would love the most. He could be our miniature Khalil Mack. That would be great. I mean, let's take it. Obviously, Khalil Mack is what he is. He's actually slightly younger, and he's a superstar. He's in Chicago. He's one of the best players in the NFL, period. Might be the MVP of all football. I mean, he is that good. Anthony Barr's value is so much better when he's playing in that similar Khalil Mack type of role. Attack, Anthony. No pass, please, no dropping back. Because once he drops back, we're going to lose. We're going to lose, and we're going to continue to lose. That's just making a mistake. So again, that's where the Vikings need to head with Anthony Barr. Sounds like Gary Kubiak also has big plans for Laquan Treadwell. Now, whatever that means, I don't know. You tell me. What does that mean? What does that mean? He has big plans for Laquan Treadwell. Well, Gary, I hope that involves Laquan Treadwell catching the ball. So hopefully it works out. Gary Kubiak uncovers some magic with the guy, and he becomes a solid third wide receiver. As of right now, your third wide receiver is Laquan Treadwell. Yeah, aren't you excited? But anything can happen in the draft. Free agency is what it is. I'm not counting on anything spectacular, and there's been no signing. There's been no Jay Crowder signing or any of that type of stuff, so we're still waiting. The seventh rated Free agent was C.J. Mosley going to the Jets. So again, the Jets are not striking out in free agency all that bad. Good acquisition there. Justin Houston's going to the Colts. KJ Wright is staying with Seattle, so there you go. Sheldon Richardson is off to the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't make me feel too good. 3 years, $36 million rather than 1 year, $12 with Minnesota. So that $12 million is off the books. So, well, it is what it is. At least we were able to get Josh Klein. Yeah, I mean, Sheldon Richardson's gone, so now Minnesota has to, if it's one of those situations, depending on who's available for the offensive line, and if Ed Oliver's floating around at pick 18, the chances of the Vikings heading that direction is extremely high as we kind of merge draft and free agency with that conversation. That's kind of what this show is, basically. Free agency, heavy, and then looking at the approach the Vikings are going to make into the draft. It's going to involve the trenches. It's going to be a trenches draft, particularly early. I think defensive line and offensive line, obviously. The game's won in the trenches, even though you got the great quarterbacks and all that. But if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball, you're not going to win. And if your running back can't find a hole because there is no hole, you're not going to win. It's that simple. You can say the offense is the game today, and it's gonna, and every score is going to be 55-51. The Rams versus Chiefs, that type of game like we had last year. Not so fast. Not so fast. The game is still won in the trenches because you're not going to get 50 points on the board if you can't protect your quarterback. In fact, you're going to get shut out by some of these defenses. It could very well happen. Tyrann Mathieu is going to the Chiefs. Vikings just didn't have the money on time, and we still don't. We just weren't going to be able to get him. Not for that price. 3 year, $42 million to the Chiefs. So congratulations to that club. Ndamukong Suh is still unsigned. Preston Smith has gone to the Packers, so that's a nice addition from the Skins. LaMarcus Joyner to the Raiders. Ansah to the he's still available. That's an interesting one. Trying to look at some of these. Yep, so Tevin Coleman, the running back, he's off to the Niners, so he's going to help replace, I guess he might help replace Jerick McKinnon, unless McKinnon's healthy and ready to go, or he can be a combo with him. That could be a good one. 2 year, $8.5 million. That's not that much. Really, it isn't. Tevin Coleman from the Falcons. That's a guy I wouldn't have minded the Vikings acquiring, but we're keeping the other guy. So Amir Abdullah is going to stay with the Minnesota Vikings, and we're going to need him because he returned some kicks last year. And of course, Mike Hughes. So those are probably your kick returners going into the season right now, at least pre-draft and all that, and pre some shocking signing that I don't see happening anytime soon. That's probably your kick returners, Amir Abdullah and Mr. Mike Hughes. And pray to God for Mike Hughes' health, obviously. Jared Cook, tight end, is off to the New Orleans Saints. Oh, isn't that exciting? Jordan Hicks is going to the Cardinals from the Eagles. That's an interesting one. So just kind of looking around. Teddy Bridgewater staying with the Saints, a 1 year deal. Wow, so 7.25 guaranteed. Only 1 year again. So Teddy Bridgewater will be a free agent again next summer. So hopefully, or next summer, next late winter, early spring, whatever. Hopefully Minnesota can bring him back. I would love that. But I would love to bring Teddy Bridgewater back and just say adios. Okay, I better watch out. You guys are going to kill me, some of you out there. But wow, it's worth up to $12.5 million. That's of course if he has a really good season and the Saints have major success. We'll see what happens there. Golden Tate goes from the Lions to the Giants. Oh, goody, that's exciting. I'm sure for the Giants and all them. It's not like he's a bad player, but there's just nothing really to say as I've kind of continued to move around. Mark Ingram has left the Saints, going to the Ravens, and of course he's been replaced by Latavius Murray. Jamison Crowder, there he is. Jamison Crowder is going to the Jets. Wow. So, well, you beat us, New York Jets. You beat us. So after, again, getting pissed off about Cousins and Anthony Barr, they hate us with a passion. And the whole, instead of this beautiful Italian restaurant, you just settle with Olive Garden, in Minnesota. Well, okay. But Jamison Crowder, he is going to the beautiful Italian restaurant in New York. So there you go. We'll continue here. Any type of major. Yep, Terrell Suggs. God, that guy's still around. He's going to the Cardinals now after playing with the Ravens for like 100 years. 1 year deal worth probably not much. Clinton Dix is laughing his way to Chicago. All right, well, they lost one and gained one, basically. So, Clinton Dix leaves the Packers and is laughing his way to Chicago. I know, that's really funny. I'm sorry, I had to say that. Morris Claiborne is still a free agent. He's a cornerback, okay, but I don't think the Vikings are jumping to that at the moment. Clay Matthews. This is a very interesting one. Clay Matthews is leaving the Packers for the Los Angeles Rams. So, okay, Clay Matthews leaving Green Bay after all these years. Wow, Jay is still available. Maybe that's who the Vikings should go after. We want a Jay. We want a Jay. Okay. And no, he has not maximized his talent over the course of his career. Trying to see. Cordero Patterson is moving to Chicago. That's right. Cordero Patterson is on his way to the Chicago Bears after getting his ring with the New England Patriots and dropping a pass and stuff and not being all that great in the Super Bowl. Just kind of doing this and that. 2 years, $10 million with the Chicago Bears, $5 million guaranteed. So at least he'll be a multimillionaire one way or another. Randall Cobb is on his way to join Dak Prescott and the the Dallas Cowboys. That sounds cute. Randall Cobb leaving Green Bay. So again, another guy out of Green Bay. Tyrod Taylor. Not many people too excited about that one, but he will go to back up Mr. Phillips over there in San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah, they're the Los Angeles Chargers. C.J. Anderson still available, the big boy there. They played with the Rams, and of course the former Denver Bronco Crabtree at age 31 is still available. I'm not sure we're in a huge hurry to go after him. Adrian Peterson is sticking with the Washington Redskins. 2 years, $8 million. So keep climbing the ladder there. They're not a great team, but hey, climb the ladder. And Mr. Case Keenum will probably be their quarterback, depending on Alex Smith's recovery, as things continue to get interesting over there. Cole Beasley's on to the Bills. He's leaving the Dallas Cowboys. Cole Beasley leaving Dallas. That's another interesting one. Any more floating around that are fascinating stuff to talk about a little bit before we jump back into Minnesota? Sam Bradford's still a free agent. Go get him, guys. Go get Sam Bradford. Minnesota Vikings are looking at a couple of guys at quarterback as well. I saw somebody somewhere. No, who was? Yep, there's the player the Vikings are after, a very unknown guy. I wouldn't mind the Vikings getting Shatley depending on what happens with that, but we'll see. Who the heck was it? We got to move forward into Mr. Josh Klein. The quarterback that they could possibly be looking at was Sean Mannion, who was a third-round pick by the Rams in 2015. Third-round pick. Sean Mannion so far hasn't done a whole lot. He's a free agent, and the Vikings are looking at him because Trevor Siemian is now on his way to the New York Jets. So the Jets, well, they got Trevor Siemian. They didn't get Kirk Cousins, but they have their quarterback of the future there. So Josh Darnold, and then they get Trevor Siemian. So I think the last laugh could be on New York's side in that one, maybe. Sean Mannion, Oregon State. He's played in 3 games so far. Not much to say. Decent quarterback rating, I suppose, but I mean, yeah, it's just 3 games. I mean, not much of a sample size. In 2017, he got into 5 games at 185 yards. Not much to say, though. No touchdowns, only 1 interception in 2016 after attempting 6 passes. So there's just not much of a sample size. And I don't know. I mean, and again, Jared Goff's the number 1 overall pick. He's your quarterback regardless of what happens. So that kind of is what it is. I mean, Jared Goff is their quarterback. So Sean Mannion supposedly is the guy the Minnesota Vikings are looking at. So, yes, this is going to be an interesting thing. This is a report just a few days ago. Never made much of an impression, this and that, but we'll see what happens. And then you have Kyle Sloter. So maybe Sloter wins the backup job. Mannion's number 3 or whatever. I mean, it's not a good backup situation. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, what team really is, like, ready to rock and roll when their starter gets hurt? The Eagles, well, they were. Now they aren't. Very few teams are really, like, ready to go to the Super Bowl when their starter gets hurt, except for very, very few cases, like the New York Giants with Hostetler backing up Phil Stamms. He went in there and won the Super Bowl, helped beat the Buffalo Bills. But I think the Giants' defense had a little something to do with the Buffalo Bills not winning that game because the Buffalo Bills had a pretty prolific offense, and they just didn't score that much. And they had that prolific offense still put them in position to win, and then frickin' Ken Norwood couldn't hit a 21-yarder, which is just ridiculous. Oh, I hate kickers. I think everybody does. Though I do like Dan Bailey. I like you, Dan. There's just, I like Dan Bailey. He seems like a calm guy. Seems like a calm, cool type of guy. Just kind of knows his role and whatever. So I'm happy to bring Dan Bailey back regardless. He doesn't look like a guy who's just flustered and freaking out every time something happens. So that's the hope there with Dan Bailey as the starting kicker. Well, starting kicker, as your kicker for the Minnesota Vikings. Only $1 million, too. That's pretty crazy, considering what Dan Bailey was just like 2 years ago with the Dallas Cowboys. We all know who number 5, the kicker of Dallas, was. He was a guy who made his kicks. And, well, that's your job in the NFL. I want to thank Roto World for some of the information. And, of course, well, you're looking at the position by position by position, kind of, you got the big list, the 101, this and that, so the information, NFL.com and Roto World. It's good to cite things because, of course, the information is right there in front of you. So it's good to have it out there, have a conversation. Some of you that may not want to be digging around and all that, rather listen to the podcast and such. But interesting moves by certain teams, interesting changes where Minnesota continues to struggle through free agency, though, of course, it is what it is when you're strapped. You're just cap-strapped. So, again, nice, solid job keeping your restricted free agents and, of course, your unrestricted in Anthony Barr. That was a very exciting situation there. So, of course, you got Danielle Hunter locked in, 5 years, $72 million. That was, of course, way back in the summer. But, hey, still something you want to talk about because it's a big deal. Anthony Barr, similar type of contract, slightly less right now, 5 years, 67.5, 77.5 up to, depending on how things go. Again, $33 million guaranteed. That was mentioned already. Shamar Stephen returns to the Vikings from Seattle. 3 years, $12.45, $5 million in the first year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Again, Amir Abdullah returns, I believe, just a 1-year deal. No information on the contract. It can't be too much, though. It's probably something like $1 million, maybe $2 million, something like that. Dan Bailey, max value of $2 million with that contract. So free agency has not been super exciting for Minnesota. Also, Tom Compton also leaving for the New York Jets. So another Viking player leaving and off to the New York Jets. Trevor Siemian was 1 year for $3 million. Jamison Crowder, 28. Wow, 3-year deal, 28. That's the guy a lot of us thought the Vikings would try to get. And Tom Compton also on his way to the New York Jets. Looks like that's unofficial at this moment. They're just kind of playing around, but ultimately that's where he's heading at the end of the day. Oakland Raiders also made the big trade for Antonio Brown. Pretty exciting, actually, at the end of the day. 2 2019 picks, round 3 and round 5. That isn't all that much, but then, again, a lot of money. And, well, he's going to be your number 1 wide receiver and this and that, so there's a commitment there, more so than people want to admit. Vontaze Burfict also 1-year deal going to the Oakland Raiders. That's an interesting one as well. Mike Glennon, wow, that's funny. He's going to be their backup quarterback. Some interesting moves over there in Oakland, so it's going to be very interesting. Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, who is obviously a good linebacker with Cincinnati, but had his moments. LaMarcus Joyner leaves the Rams for the Oakland Raiders as well. 4 years, $42 million. So again, extremely interesting moves by the Oakland Raiders. As I think next year things could get quite interesting. I think the Jets are going to be significantly better next year as well. I don't think I don't really think the Rams are on their way to being anything great. Blake Bortles is going to be a backup quarterback for them. That's kind of funny. Wow, that's crazy for how much he signed for. Remember how much they signed him for in Jacksonville? Wow, that's insane. Yep, so that's a strange situation. He was obviously let go. Malcolm Brown, Dante Fowler. Okay. Clay Matthews, interesting addition, but he's past his prime, this and that. So, yeah, I know. But, yep, Tom Compton leaving, that figures. Anthony Barr agreed to stay. That's pretty awesome, this and that. So, and then again, Everson Griffin also restructured. Big surprise there. We thought he might be gone as the Vikings try to make moves, this and that. So, I'm going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll talk about these moves with you guys and other conversation possibly regarding Minnesota in the Fan Interaction segment right after this. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 2 in this case. 2-segment show, fan interaction, and we'll dig a bit more, look at the draft a tiny bit too as we're kind of jumping around. And just in general, I mean, consensus, it looks like Jonah Williams, tackle out of Alabama, or Cody Ford, guard out of Oklahoma, or Andre Dillard. That's another possibility coming out of Washington State. Looks like a tackle to me, obviously. A tackle out of Washington State and Andre Dillard. Those are kind of the three consensus possibilities. Could be Garrett Bradbury playing center and guard, that type of thing. Chris Lidstrom's a guard out of Boston College. Would be an interesting move. And another one, tackle Dalton Reisner. So those are a couple of other possibilities possibly going into the second round, either trading up in the second round, or they're hanging around, or maybe, just maybe, this guy. That might be the one. That just might be the one. Michael Jordan could be the guy coming. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Ohio State, Michael Jordan. Yep. Right now he's ranked 60th overall on all the draft prospects. Ohio State. He's an offensive tackle possibility. 6'6". So just like Michael Jordan, 6'6", but unfortunately, maybe about 110 pounds heavier. Michael Jordan out of Ohio State. I love it. I love it. Yeah, no shadow at all with that name, but no, it's okay. Hey, who knows? Maybe he might be a second, third round idea out of Ohio State. Ohio State has produced a lot of great players, including a lot of great O-linemen, as has Iowa over the years, and Alabama's produced a few. Remember Jonah Williams, obviously, last year moving to left tackle, replacing the very talented player the year before. So it's going to be extremely interesting where the Vikings head into the draft, and it's going to be very O-line heavy, I got to think. I think 2 out of the first 3 rounds will be O-line, and D-line will be the other thing, or possibly wide receiver, but you got 2 elite wide receivers. Don't take a high pick on a wide receiver unless you're absolutely positively, like, this guy's absolutely going to be a good player in this league for many years, that type of thing. Like, it's a can't-miss, no-brainer, and how often does that happen? Seriously. So let's just kind of move from there. Twitter, want to thank Hall of Famer, that's right, Hall of Famer, Purple Mafia Hall of Famer, Malcolm McSween out of Southern California, for retweeting the show. You'll hear from him in a little bit, as he was very happy to join the Hall of Fame this year. And, yep. Some of you that didn't get in, I mean, I hope some of you aren't annoyed and all that. I mean, it's just a podcast, so it's nothing huge. And, of course, also, some of you, like, there's a guarantee you're going to get in. So, very soon. Just a few to name. I don't want to, I got to be very careful. But some of you, yeah, that I mentioned on the last show as future Hall of Famers, there's a pretty good chance you're getting in extremely soon. Cedric Paulding's definitely way up there as well. So, just in case he's listening at the moment. So I want to thank you guys for your interaction. There are no actual comments. Did not hear from Hall of Famer, official Hall of Famer now, Mad Martin yet. Maybe he's busy. Sometimes he gets behind, and that's how it is. Podcasting, sometimes it's a slow burn when people are, they could get caught up with the show, especially in the off season. That's why sometimes the numbers, it's a slow burn. It doesn't explode. Like, there's the diehard fans that download it right away. And then some people, it's 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and then, now the numbers went up. So that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. So at Purple Mafia Show is the Twitter account. Apologize the strange start to this segment, but hey, we had to talk about a little bit of where the Vikings are heading into the draft, this and that. Got very tied up into free agency and figured, hey, maybe I didn't give enough conversation on that in segment number 1. Want to thank those of you that always love listening to the show and comment and all that. So most recently, Mark Carlson on the most recent show on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. Going to give a quick shout out to Vikings Haven. Vikings Haven. Do join that Facebook page as well. Vikings off-season news, in-game threads, conversation, this and that on there. Trevor Wickerin, the founder of that page, kind enough to allow me to post links to Purple Mafia on that page. Thank you again. Very happy to give him a shout out, and I know a good number of you have joined. Mark Carlson out of Iowa says, my day just got great. And then Leland Albertson out of Iowa also says, thanks, Joey. And I love Iowa. Thank you guys so much for how good you've been. Sebastian Barton locally, well, I guess Mankato area, says, did you include cutting Remmers? And yes. I think it was at the point he was going to get cut. Like, it was obvious he was going to get cut. Maybe it wasn't 100% official, but I was like, yes, he's gone. Like, I knew he's gone, and I think most of you did as well. So, one of those type of deals. Shamar Stephan agreeing to the 3-year deal. Comments there. Leland out of Iowa again says, well, it buys some cap space And to William Carr says maybe he needs to trim a few pounds. Unbelievable. Yep, he does look pretty big there, doesn't he? In that image there. 247 Sports posting that story at the time. Sheldon Richardson off to Cleveland. That frustrated a lot of people. 3 years, $39 million. And I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be awfully good next year as well. They made some interesting moves, including acquiring Sheldon Richardson. Leland says he was a solid lineman, but really didn't make a big splash for the Vikes. And I don't think he did either. He had some moments in the mid to later portions of the season, but yeah, it's not like he really stood out like we owe him, $15 million for like 6 years or anything. So that's just kind of how things are right now. And and the Vikings salary cap situation was what it was. The whole story of Anthony Barr changing his mind, deciding to stay with the Vikings after agreeing with the Jets. Like, the deal was done already. Gerald out of Nebraska, Hall of Famer, says, great player when he's healthy. Glad they were able to retain him. No question about that. Leland out of Iowa says, yep, better chance with Vikings for a postseason run or the money. Tough choice. So, yep, it is what it is. And he did come to Minnesota instead of a little bit more with the Jets, this and that. Latavius Murray off to the Saints with a 4-year deal. Pretty crazy. No comments there, but a bit of reaction. Sad, upset kind of reaction there. Vikings agreed to bring back Everson Griffin on a restructured contract. Mark Carlson says he's very happy. Josh Mayer-Henry, a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame out of Colorado, says glad we were able to hang on to him. Yep, Josh Mayer-Henry. Multiple years with being in the final Stars of the Year deal the last 2 years. He's been a huge star for the show the last 2 years, without a doubt. Ali Sidikai locally says, I would have been fine bringing him back, but not for that much, and that would be Nick Easton. 4 years, $24 million to the Nolans Saints. Mark Carlson says, and then what? As in, like, it's a frustrating situation. Gerald String says, great. Owen Brown has an image of a cowboy saying, well, bye. Frustrating situation indeed. It just kind of is what it is. As Nick Easton, I like him. I liked Nick Easton. I hated the injuries, though. Tom Compton signed to the New York Jets. Amir Abdullah returns to the Vikings. So we finally kept somebody, other than, we kept somebody anyway, as we hadn't signed anybody new to this point. Gerald, again, out of Nebraska, says, couldn't agree more with Eric and Jeff. Let's see what's going on. Okay, it was backwards. Eric Mustard, let's start off with him then. South Dakota says, I hope Abdullah can play some O-line because we have 5 total linemen. Pat Elfline, Riley Reeve, Danny Isidoro, Rashad Hill, and Brian O'Neill. And yeah, that's all it was until Josh Klein. Eric Mustard wraps up his comment here saying, also, I'm looking forward to us spending high draft picks on defensive backs. And that's a little bit of sarcasm mixed in there. We all know what the way Mike Zimmer leans towards defensive backs, just slightly. Jeff Royland out of Iowa says, I'd start shopping Rhodes, and that's out there. Rhodes and Waynes are out there as possible trade bait. One of the two. It would only be one, though, of course, because you don't want to cut your defend your secondary, because then things get really interesting. Jeff Freeland says, I'd start shopping Rhodes. He's always nicked up, and the Rhodes opened this past year and a half instead of Rhodes closed. Yep. Teams have been giving high draft picks lately. We need O-line, and I would not mind making some kind of move. It depends on the replacement and all that. But the crabby part is watch them just take another one, just take another defensive back instead of O-line. But we'll see what happens. Of course, Mr. I can't remember. So let's move forward. Gerald String says, Holton Hill. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm blanking as I'm loading up Gerald String here. Holton Hill. That's what I'm thinking about. As remember, Holton Hill was an undrafted free agent, so I suppose he can do it with just about anybody as long as they have the talent and the ears, to listen. Mike Zimmer could do it with just about any cornerback. Of course, he had the talent, and people knew that Holton Hill could play. It just was a matter of would he play? Would he play well? And he did. And he had to. He had to. It just was what it was. Gerald String says, couldn't agree more with Eric and Jeff. No urgency to improve the O-line. Don't get this at all. And I understand. Believe me, do I understand. Vikings re-signed the kicker Dan Bailey to a 1-year contract. Leland says, I like the incentive clause. If he does good, he's going to get paid. If not, it only cost us $250K. That's pretty crazy. Gerald String says, I would just go for a kicker. I would just forego a kicker Go for it every fourth down in enemy territory, and always go for 2 after touchdowns and be done with it, LMAO. Bailey will probably settle down and be absolutely fine. So hopefully he's just joking around, of course. Mark Carlson says, I'm so on Bailey, but I will say he is qualified and fit for duty. So, fit for duty, just that. I still haven't bought stock in him. I have no confidence yet that in a big game when it's all on the line, he can make a long kick. We need to walk off with a W. It's just the way I am these days. And of course, yes, we've been through utter hell when it comes to kickers. We really have. Jeff Froyland responding to Mark Carlson saying, I agree, but remember, we have a different special teams coach. That could significantly help. Yep, and that's hopefully that does make a difference. Only $250,000 guaranteed. That is pretty crazy, though. I would take $250,000 guaranteed right now, today, to go try out to be a kicker for the Vikings. But yeah, let's leave that alone. I'd like my $250,000 if humanly possible, though. Josh Klein, the addition of Josh Klein, of course. Let's see what you had to say about that out there. Mark Carlson says, what could go wrong with this? And I don't care after thinking about it. Someone needs to pick up the slack. The guys we have had in the past have been good to mediocre. Not really performing to the expected standard. No change is good, I guess. And this guy is no rookie, so it's not going to be a bust, or will it? I hope he isn't. I really hope so. Brent McCarthy was asking how old is he, and I said, he's 29 years old, so we'll just have to wait and see. Basically average at this stage, though 2 years ago he was above average, and I was again recommending to McCarthy to check out the recent show, because I don't think he heard. You're in the Hall of Fame, Brett. You're in the Hall of Fame now. Did you hear about that? Were you expecting that to happen, or is he just does he just post on the page and not listen? Maybe that's some of the people. I'm fearing that could be the case. Most people just come on the page but don't listen to the show. I'm guessing they listen, though. Most of them, at some point, like eventually, or they listen to a couple here and there. But anything is greatly appreciated, and I always love what you guys have to say. It means a great deal to me. So let's look at visitor posts and look to wrap up the show if humanly possible. I apologize, though. Bear with me. I've not been feeling my best, and all of a sudden starting to hit me again here on the second segment. I don't know what's going on. Yep, the Marcus Sherrill's edition. I posted that as Joey Awajan. What the devil? So we'll come back here. Okay, first we'll say the Malcolm comment. He says, Joey Awajan, thank you so much for the Hall of Fame induction. You are truly unique in your talent of covering this team we are all invested in. Since day one of listening to the podcast, it has yet to be matched by any other. Breaking news, Malcolm McSween has signed a lifetime-long contract with the Purple Mafia show. And thank you so much, Malcolm, and I really appreciate that. It means a great deal, and it was my pleasure to put you in. You deserved it. You've been with this show for quite a while. Sometimes, there were sometimes you disappeared for a while, but again, that doesn't hurt your value to the show, because I know you're out there, I know you're listening, I know you love the show, and it means a great deal. So thank you again very much. So now, Marcus Sherrill's addition to the New Orleans Saints. I was like, where is that? It somehow went into the visitor posts. That's the darndest thing I ever saw, but Facebook has been acting weird lately. Gerald String says, dang, that one hurts. Mark Carlson says he fully agrees in response there. Mark Carlson then posts his own thing, says, he is my most liked player on the team, or was on the team, like Jimmy Kleinsasser. Sherrill's was always part of the team, and you could always count on him. Vince Germano out of Australia says, in other news, how good do the Browns look? And they look very good. They look very good. They really do. Great additions, and of course Sheldon Richardson, one of them, but some others along the way. And of course you got a great quarterback now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how well the Cleveland Browns do. I wish them nothing but success, because how could you honestly root against the Browns? How? Like, why? Why root against the Browns? It's like kicking somebody when they're down. So, I mean, no, I'm not saying that to be an asshole either. It could be a jackass or pushing them, kicking them while they're down. No, I like the Browns. I do. I've actually always kind of had a soft spot for the Cleveland Browns. Are they my second favorite team? No. My second favorite team is, well, you know who they are. Maybe I shouldn't say anymore, because people get mad. And other people say there is no second favorite team. There can be sometimes. And, it's fun to have some kind of a rooting interest. when your team's not in the playoffs. It's fun to have some kind of rooting interest, just somebody to kind of cheer for during that time. I mean, your emotions aren't going to be as high when they win the Super Bowl. Okay, the Patriots. When the Patriots won the Super Bowl, I was very happy. But would I be nearly as happy with the Patriots winning if the Vikings win? There's no comparison. If the Vikings win, I'm taking the day off the next day. It's not because I'm partying it up all night, but I am taking the day off the next day. There is no way in hell I'm going into work. I might miss a second day. I mean, we've waited forever. We've waited almost 60 years. It basically is 60 years now. 59 years is 60 years. It really is, right? Like 39 is basically 40. Like I'm basically a 40-year-old already, even though I'm not official until July. Come on, we've waited eons. We've waited forever. We've waited a lifetime. 60 years is a lifetime. Like a life sentence is 60 bleeping years. So you wouldn't want to take a day or two off of work, not to party it up, but just to enjoy. Sit back and bask in the glory. But then again, going into work and basking in the glory with others out there that might care. Unfortunately, at my job, half the people there aren't even from Minnesota, so that sucks. Or is it even more than half? But but at least some of them appreciate the fact that, the Minnesota Vikings, the team, the place they live now, is a Super Bowl champion. So their place of residence is a Super Bowl champion, and there's just nothing better. There's nothing better, and I hope it happens one day. Just like, watching the North Stars lose the Stanley Cup Finals in 91, that's heartbreaking. Watching the Twins win the World Series in 91 and 87, it's the most beautiful feeling ever. Like, some of your worst enemies, like when I was in school, the people that they beat you up verbally, they talk stupid, they're always rude to you, even they are your best friend on that day. So, everybody had people that beat you up verbally in school. Everybody did. So, it is what it is. So, it was a wonderful feeling to be friends with everybody, even for a short time. So there is always that too. With that said, let's pass out the stars for this show. The gold star for this episode, who's it going to go to? Mark Carlson's going to get the gold star for this episode. Silver star for this episode's got to be Leland. And the bronze star is going to go to Eric Mostard, South Dakota, Gerald String out of Nebraska will be bringing in the bronze star. Thank you guys so much for your comments. And of course, Malcolm McSween, let's give him a silver. For that awesome comment, let's give him a silver star. Beautiful comment. And thank you so much for your appreciation of this show and for your friendship as well out of the Southern California area there. Thanks indeed. And not Los Angeles, but, north of LA, but south of like San Fran and all that stuff. So that type of situation. God bless all of you. Hopefully the Minnesota Vikings have more up their sleeves here. I don't know. I think free agency kind of is what it is. You're probably going to bring in one more reserve guard, maybe. Brett Jones or that Shackey guy. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. I don't know. The draft is really what's going to fix your offensive line at this point. And last time we went into free agency, it was like a Band-Aid. It was like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and it stopped the bleeding for a little while, and it burst right open again. And that's basically what happened. Free agency hopefully can mend that wound for a very long time. The draft with Brian O'Neill, hopefully there you go. You have a tackle position that could be held for the next 10 to 15 years with Brian O'Neill. God willing, and knock on wood. And let's get the other one. Get the other tackle or other. Maybe I hope the Vikings get a tackle and a guard, and of course a guard that's capable of playing center, this and that. And of course maybe one of your backup guys is capable of doing that as well. Brett Jones and that Shackey. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. So it just kind of is what it is at this point. I hope all of you enjoy the spring as it came. The spring actually came. It's not a myth like last year where Tyler Shatley. Shatley. It's a different name. You don't hear it very often. And, of course, he's not a big name at all. Brett Jones is easy to remember because that's like the most common name in the world practically. Might as well be Joe Smith. But, no, you're actually getting some spring. It's got that marble look outside because the snow was so deep because February was a record breaker in these parts in the upper Midwest. Record-breaking February in snowfall in the upper Midwest. But March came in like an absolute raging lion. And has gone out like a pretty gentle lamb, which is nice. Like they always say, March comes in like a lion and out like a lamb. And last year, it just stayed a lion until the end of April, when it warmed up and all that huge late April snow melted away very quickly. Luckily, not too much flooding in that case. But with that said, hope all of you have a nice week or two here between now and the next show, where it's going to be 100% draft. And, of course, fan interaction, maybe some other news, some small free agency news will get thrown in. But other than that, it's going to be 100% draft preview and all that. Guys that might be interesting, some possible guys that could help out with special teams. I always look at a guy or two like that. I identify a guy or two like that, and we never take them. And it's just like I really liked Naheem Hines last year. I really did. And, it just broke my heart, Never take them. But maybe once in a while they will. And then it's like, here we go. And hopefully they actually use them and something happens. So we'll just have to wait and see until that happens. And until then, we'll see who that player may or may not be. Other than that, it's going to be like block the damn quarterback and attack the quarterback on the other end. Plain and simple. Trenches. The game is won in the trenches. We'll talk to you then. Until then, take care.